listeners. I'm Hallie Burrell.
And I'm Brittany Wilson.
And this is The Abyss.
So every true crime fanatic knows that feeling where you find a new case and you search it online and all of a sudden it's 5 hours later and you're in the weirdest, darkest corners of the internet with all the theories laid out in front of you, and we call that The Abyss.
Today we're going to be talking about Brandon Lawson for our first episode.
So this is a case that I've known about for a while, and it's one that's always kind of stuck with me because it's such a strange case. It is the story of a 26-year-old man that had some car trouble on the side of the road, then he just vanished without a trace.
Yeah, so let's jump into it.
Lawson was 26 years old. He lived in San Angelo, Texas with his common-law wife, Lawson. The two had 4 children, 3 from their relationship and 1 from a previous relationship. They had been together for a long time. I think when they first met, Lawson was 15 and Brandon was 16, so they had really grown up together.
They were high school sweethearts.
Their relationship was kind of on and off. When you have relationships when you're really young, the smallest thing kind of sets you off or whatever, but they really worked well together in the end. You know, they
loved
always
each other.
Yeah, they always ended up back together, and they were really doing well. Brandon was supporting his family. He was an oil field worker for the Renegade Oil Service, and he was working super hard to support them, and Lawson was home taking care of the kids, which is a huge job with 4 kids. So
yeah.
They were really just an average family.
The only downside about this oil field working job is it took a lot of overtime and a lot of extra hours, which might have taken away from some of his family time. And that's why he was actually looking for another job at the moment where he would get better pay, more benefits.
Yeah, working in the oil fields is strenuous. It's hard work. He was working like 80 hours a week. It's just a rough job. He had this interview and he had been drug tested. You know what was going on. He was really moving on with it.
However, things took a turn on the night of August 8th, 2013. There was an argument that happened between Lawson and Brandon Lawson. This argument seemed to escalate to where Brandon just felt like he needed to leave the house. We're not really sure what the argument was about. There was some controversy on if it was possibly her being worried about something with drugs, but as we know, he passed a drug test. Also, it could have been just normal struggles that they had going on as a couple with 4 kids. You know, things aren't always easy.
Yeah, so Brandon left the house at 11:53 p.m. that night and just needed to take a break from everything. He called his dad and decided to drive to his dad's house. It was a pretty long drive. It was about 3 or 4 hours away. It was already really late. That's a long way to go that late at night.
Yeah, so after Brandon left, Lawson called Brandon just to check in, see if he was okay, see if he wanted to come back, and she suggested that maybe he go to his brother's, which was only about 5 minutes away, and it would be closer. He wouldn't have to drive super late. It was already almost midnight. She wanted him to be safe.
After Lawson talked to Brandon, she called his brother, Kyle Lawson, told him her concerns with everything. Things had gotten heated, that she was a little bit worried. They talked it over, and then around 12:10, Kyle actually went over to Lawson's house just to make sure everything was fine, that she was doing okay.
Her and the kids were good.
Yeah, and everything was fine, and he went back home.
About 12:34 to 12:48, this chunk of time, Brandon called Lawson about 3 times, and she didn't answer those calls. I don't know if she didn't have her phone next to her. Maybe she just missed them. Maybe she was a little frustrated still and their phone call hadn't gone that well. And so maybe she didn't answer on purpose. Either way, Brandon was calling her, trying to talk to her about something. And at 12:38 p.m., so during that chunk of time he was calling Lawson, he made a call to his brother Kyle and told him that he had ran out of gas on Highway 277 that was near Bronte, Texas.
Right after this, Kyle and his girlfriend Audrey called Lawson and told her what was going on, that Brandon had run out of gas, that he was stranded, but that they were going to take care of it and it really wasn't a big deal. She took the gas can they had and put it out on the porch so Kyle could come grab it, and then she plugged her phone in, and she didn't have a charger in her house, so she decided to charge it in the car, and she plugged it in out there and decided to head off to bed.
Kyle and Audrey retrieved the gas can at 12:45 a.m. off of Ledessa's porch. Kyle didn't have any money right then to pay for any gas for Brandon. His paycheck hadn't gone through with work, so what his plan was to take this gas can to Brandon, pick him up, drive Brandon to the nearest gas station, let Brandon fill it up, and then take him back to his car so Brandon can get his truck up and running.
But unbeknownst to anyone at the time, at 12:53 a.m., Brandon actually called 911, and the call was pretty frantic. He was talking really fast. It was kind of hard to hear him at certain points, but we're going to play that call for you and just let you listen, hear what you think you hear, and then we'll talk about it afterwards.
9/2013 0:50 and 38 seconds. 911 emergency.
Yes, I'm in the middle of the field. The Staple just pushed some guys over. Right here going towards Javelin on both sides. My truck ran out of gas. There's one car here and got taken to the woods. Please hurry.
Okay, now run that by me.
I'm not talking to him. I actually ran into him.
Ah, you ran into him. Okay.
That's the first guy.
Do you need an ambulance?
Yeah, no, I need the cops.
Okay. Is anybody hurt? Hello? Hello? Hello?
So that's a very intense 911 call.
Yeah, it's pretty short. It's only about 43 seconds long, but a lot happened in that, and there's a lot that people have gone over with a fine-tooth comb trying to pick out what the most important parts of it really are.
Yeah, and it was so hard to hear in some places because not only is it muffled, but Brandon's clearly out of breath, breathing hard. Sounds like maybe there's other people there. Sounds like he's referring to other people around him.
Yeah, he keeps saying we and these guys and referring to, other people in that situation. And a lot of people actually hear at least one other voice on that recording. Some people even hear a woman's voice as well, making it a total of 3 people. It's just so hard to tell with the quality of the call.
Yeah. A big part was when he says, I ran into them. The operator for 911 clearly thinks that maybe he ran his car into somebody. Like maybe she didn't hear the part where he said that he ran out of gas.
Right. But there's also the figurative sense to it. You run into your friend at the store or something like that. So it's hard to tell if he meant physically ran into somebody or just kind of stumbled on somebody.
And it sounds like something happened and he needed the police.
Yeah. When he says, please hurry, when he says, we need the cops out here. It's a pretty urgent call. He's pretty intense about, we need help right now. But it's hard to say just like what was going on.
Yeah.
A lot of people even hear gunshots in this call.
Towards the end.
Yeah. And they're kind of faint, kind of distant. But it's just so crazy what might have been happening at that point. It really could have been anything. And another weird part of the call at the beginning, you can kind of hear him say the stappers pulled or pushed us off the road. And some people think stapers is really state troopers, but that it had been cut down. Some people think on purpose. Some people think it's just sort of a blip in the call or misspeaking. Sometimes when you're in a situation like that and you're that frazzled, it can be easy to just sort of stumble over your words.
They also think that there was a second person whenever the operator says, do you need an ambulance? If you listen really closely, it sounds like someone says yes in a distance, and then you hear Brandon say, no, we need the cops.
So there might have been somebody else there. They might have been hurt or, knew something about this situation. It sounds like Brandon's saying that they were hiding. So it sounds so intense.
And that they ran into the woods.
Yeah. Like something really big went down and there's just no way of knowing what it was. But there's so many versions of this call online. You can really pick it apart in a lot of different ways. There's people that have slowed it down, cleaned up the audio, all kinds of things. There's people sharing what they think is said during the call. You can spend a lot of time just going over this one call. Just 43 seconds really could crack this case.
Yeah. Following the call that Brandon made to the police asking for help, there was another 911 call at 12:58 a.m. from a trucker that was passing by, and he reported a hazardly placed car on the side of the highway. 12 minutes after this phone call was made, Kyle and Audrey arrived at Brandon Lawson's car. At the same time, the sheriff's deputy arrived at the car. The funny part is that they came from different directions. Ledessa, Brandon's partner, believes that this is very significant because if he was walking on the side of the road, one of them would have seen him coming from different directions.
When they arrived at Brandon's car, they found no damage, so it's not like he got in an accident or anything like that. They found it, no gas, just like you said initially. Everything looked pretty normal, but his keys and phone were gone, which if you were going to walk to a gas station or something like that, those are things you would take.
Kyle and Audrey automatically assumed that Brandon was hiding since the police were at his car and he did have a warrant for his arrest out from 2 years ago. However, he was already scheduled for court. He had just found out about this warrant recently. He was in the works of trying to get things figured out.
Yeah, he really wasn't trying to run from it, wasn't trying to hide. He was taking accountability for his actions, and really he was going to face it head on.
It was stated that neither Kyle nor the deputy were aware that Brandon had placed a 911 call that was urgent.
There's some debate there whether the police actually knew, but as far as we could tell, there's really no evidence that anyone really knew at that point.
Audrey went ahead and texted Brandon at 1:18 and told him that they were at his car, that there was a deputy there. It was meant to be a warning because she really thought he's got to be hiding. Where else would he have gone?
So while Kyle and the deputy were standing at Brandon's car, Brandon actually called Kyle again.
Yeah, but the signal was really bad. It was hard to hear Brandon. The call actually was dropped by the end of it because of the signal in the area. However, Kyle heard him say something about him being 10 minutes away in a field and something about bleeding.
So remember, at this point, Kyle didn't know about the 911 call, but kind of alarming that his brother would say he was bleeding. But he said he was close, just 10 minutes away. So they kind of looked around a little bit, didn't see anything. And like we said, they had come from separate directions. So Brandon really wasn't walking on the road or visible in that way.
Not to mention, if they're still in the mindset that Brandon was hiding and he says bleeding, if maybe the signal was bad, he couldn't hear the urgency quite as well. Maybe he thought he hit his leg on a twig or a thorn or fell or something. Maybe he was bleeding like that. He didn't think severe.
Yeah, so without the knowledge of that 911 call, it didn't seem as severe as it really might have been.
Keeping that in mind, Kyle didn't inform the deputy that was at the site about that phone call with Brandon that he had just received. He figured better to let Brandon work it out himself. He'll come back when they leave and everything will be fine. So the deputy locked up the truck and ended up leaving and arranged for a tow in the morning. The deputy said he looked for Brandon a little bit on the side of the road, didn't see anybody, but he also didn't think that there was a big thing going on because, from what we read, he didn't know that a 911 call had been placed for the same thing and that was urgent.
Kyle, still thinking that it wasn't a huge deal, just decided to leave the gas can in the back of the truck, so when Brandon came back, he would just go fill it up and be on his way. Kyle called Ledessa to fill her in on everything that was going on, but she had put her phone in the car, so she didn't receive any of those calls.
Kyle and Audrey got home at about 2 to 3 a.m., and they were continually calling Brandon, trying to reach him, and he still wasn't answering. They knew that his phone was at least on until 3:30 a.m., though, because it was ringing. After that, they think maybe it died. It went straight to voicemail. At 4:30 a.m., Ledessa finally went and retrieved her phone from her car. This is when she saw all of the missed calls from Kyle and Brandon, and she became very nervous. She didn't know what was going on, and she processed it and immediately contacted the police 30 minutes later.
Yeah, that's pretty scary. It's always scary when you pick up your phone and you see a ton of missed calls from your family, especially since Brandon wasn't home. That's a really scary feeling.
They had had a fight. She was already concerned about him when she went to bed, and you wake up to this. So when Ledessa called the police, she was checking in, seeing if they knew anything, and they still had heard nothing about Brandon.
And she still didn't know anything about the 911 call. The police still hadn't made that connection yet. Everything was still pretty up in the air, really vague. Nobody knew exactly what was going on. Kyle's paycheck finally went into his account that morning, so he decided to go back to the truck and get the gas. And when he went back, it had been untouched. The can was still there. Everything looks just like they left it. But he took the can, went, filled it up, and then brought it back to the truck.
At 8:30 a.m., the truck was towed, gas can in the trunk, not touched by Brandon, not touched by anybody since Kyle had put it back there.
And it was around this time that Kyle finally told the police about the call he had received from Brandon that night.
Yeah, about being close by and bleeding. On August 9th, so this is the following day, this is when Ledessa got her phone, everything, the friends and family that were close to him went and searched.
They got permission from landowners. They really tried to do a thorough search, thorough as they could in the area, even though they really didn't know exactly where to search. They just searched around the area of the truck, not knowing, how far you could have gotten or anything like that. But they figured he was probably nearby.
2 days afterwards, Ledessa paid for a plane to take her up into the air so she could personally do an aerial search. There was 30 miles of land that was around the area where the car was abandoned, so she had a lot of coverage to do. And she was looking for primarily any scavengers, any birds that might be scavenging, to see if she could hopefully find her partner.
August 12th was when the family finally found out about that 911 call Brandon made. Ledessa looked on their phone records and found out that way, so the police weren't even the ones that told her.
And she found out that the police had actually reported his 911 call as a stranded motorist who was out of gas.
Yeah, which is so crazy when you actually hear that call, to think that that's what they picked out of it, that it was just ran out of gas, when there's so much more to it.
He sounds so flustered and so panicked that he really needed someone there right then. And I doubt that it was just him calling because he was out of gas.
August 13th, Ledessa filed an official missing persons report for Brandon. Searches picked up. August 16th, there was a official search. There was infrared lights, aerial coverage, dogs, the whole 9 yards to try to find him. And they found nothing. Even, the infrared found nothing, but it could just mean his body had been out there too long. Because
it was 4 days.
Yeah, because it picks up heat and his body would have been cold by then. But the dogs found nothing. The aerial search found nothing. Just not a trace.
Not even his keys or his phone that he took with him.
On August 29th, there was another official search with 5 large investigative units, and they covered 2,500 acres, and still nothing. Just absolutely nothing.
It seems like this guy literally just vanished into thin air. Following the searches, Ledessa ended up quitting her job, moving back to Fort Worth, Texas to be closer to her family.
Yeah, Brandon's parents were there and her own parents were there, and they wanted to be close to the kids and help out. She needed help. 4 kids is a lot.
However, she did not stop helping search for Brandon. She couldn't do it on foot, but she was working a Facebook page, raising awareness, spreading the word, which is one of the most important parts of a missing person, is let the police handle the evidence and you spread the word.
Since that last call from Brandon, there was no more activity on his phone, no bank activity, nothing, no trace of him. It's not like he just walked away from his life or anything like that. It was just nothing. 7 weeks later, Crime Stoppers picked up the case. They got a few tips here and there, but nothing really substantial, which really spoke volumes to the family. Ledessa thought he had just walked away, or he was wandering around somewhere. If he had forgotten who he was or something like that, somebody would have seen him, somebody would have called in, but they really didn't get anything of substance.
On October 24th, 2013, there was an extensive search and rescue operation. 3 more also happened in the beginning months of 2014. People were trying to search for, almost half a year for Brandon, and nobody could find him. Kyle was also considered a suspect at one point. The police had taken him in, started asking him questions, doing their basic interrogation where they start off easy, slowly build the pressure, and once they started asking Kyle about any physical altercations with his brother or if he had any vendettas. He started to get the hint, catch the flow of where they were going, and he was just like, nope, I know what's going on. I want to take a polygraph right now to prove that I did not do this. And he passed with flying colors, and they didn't consider him a suspect anymore after that.
Police believe that because the searches brought nothing, that Brandon's really not in Cook County anymore. But the family kind of disagrees with that. They think just because they didn't find him, it doesn't necessarily mean he's not there. And they really don't want that to make people stop looking, in that area, because I think they think the most likely scenario is he's still somewhere near that where the truck was.
And this was only about 5 or 6 years ago. And you can hear cases sometimes where 20 years pass and they end up finding something that solves it. So there's still hope. It's all about keeping it publicized and making the community aware.
Yeah, we really want to keep his face out there, and you never know what one tip can really just blow things wide open.
And so let's get into some of the theories that might be associated from what we read online, what we think regarding this case.
There's so many theories with this case. It's just such a weird case, and there's so many missing pieces that people try to fill in with what they think happened. But there's also a lot of misinformation out there, and a lot of it actually came from the local newspaper, the Observer Enterprise, which is actually owned by the wife of the sheriff. And
which makes it a lot of iffy information.
There's a little conflict of interest, but it's also, she obviously wants the information to make the police look good, but also she might get information that other people might not get. Like, it could be, but either way, it's just kind of a little
misleading
iffy.
information.
Yeah. And she did post, she posted initially that Brandon was hiding in the bushes, even though that was just kind of a theory Kyle had at first without even knowing about the 911 call or anything. He thought maybe that's what it was, but she posted that as fact. She also mentioned, in kind of an odd way to me, it was kind of weird, but she said that in his condition, he couldn't have gone farther than 100 yards. How would she know his condition? No one saw him.
Yeah, exactly. She's either trying to fabricate in a way, or she's maybe getting information from people who knew something more than the family was told. Exactly. Which happens.
But she never stated where she got that information. She just said, in his condition, he couldn't have gotten 100 yards, which is not very far. So you would think that's a pretty bad condition.
Exactly.
To make matters worse, on October 2nd, 2013, she posted an article, and in it, she said, quote, "In conclusion, there were many poor decisions made that night and during the next few days. However, they weren't made by the Cook County Sheriff's Office."
Which sounds really kind of sly. Kind of like she
very
was
biting to the family.
Yeah, in a way, I want to use the word low hit.
Yeah, really.
No.
And so that kind of fueled, that kind of fueled the speculation, though, because was she just defensive? Because some people had been saying the police hadn't handled it well, they hadn't done enough. Was she just being defensive, or was she actually trying to take a hit at the family? Which is a pretty awful thing, especially for a news reporter. You hope that they can be a little less biased. And
definitely, if you're writing about a missing person case, you would think that she would be more considerate, more wanting to help. But I mean, from that quote and also from her just jumping to the conclusion of him hiding in a bush makes it sound like maybe she was thinking about his past more so. And well, maybe he was just hiding in a bush. He clearly called 911 because he needed help. If he had a warrant out for his arrest, even though he was going to court, maybe he wouldn't have wanted to call the police unless it was a serious issue, you know?
And he had been to prison before. He knew the drill. It wasn't a big enough deal that he would have faced time, or it was just something he had to deal with, and really wasn't as big of a deal as they kind of made it out in the newspaper. He had been through stuff like that before, and all evidence shows that he would have just gotten through it.
Yeah, and that just shows that him calling the police means he genuinely felt a concern for his safety.
And you can feel in that call his urgency. He wasn't just messing around.
He was out of breath.
Yeah, and he was like, "Please hurry," you know.
She was like, "Do you need an ambulance?" And he said, "No, I need the cops."
There's also some other theories. There's some theories that he might have he ran out of gas, and then he tried walking to the gas station after his brother said he couldn't buy gas and it might be a little bit before they got there. He might have just walked and maybe run into some people doing something shady.
What do you personally think might have happened, Brittany?
So I'm kind of two minds with this. The first one, and I think the most obvious one that a lot of skeptics of this being anything crazy, they think that he just relapsed on drugs, had some kind of breakdown, and then disappeared somehow. It could have been he ran into the woods, he hit his head, maybe he just had some kind of break. Sometimes people on drugs just do crazy things. His drug of choice was meth, and that can kind of mess with you a lot. But my thing with that is just, it was so little time, and he had just passed the drug test. He had been clean for a while, and just between him leaving, things going down, it was just such little amount of time.
Yeah, and I don't know when they moved exactly, but it was in 2012. Well, he went missing in 2013. There was a ton of time where he could have, relapsed. But clearly he passed a drug test.
Yeah.
And so he wasn't relapsing.
And he was excited for this new job and really wanted to provide for his family. And yeah, he had a fight with his wife, but we all go through that. I mean, obviously that's plausible. That could have definitely happened. But I just, in my gut, I don't feel like that happened. My other theory that I lean towards is that he was picked up. So either he was walking to get gas and someone drove by and picked him up, and maybe they were up to no good. Maybe at that point Brandon was already hurt and maybe he had fallen. Who knows what happened. He might have even...
I didn't even think about him getting picked up.
Yeah, especially in the middle of the night, who you're going to run into on a road like that. It was such a weird situation. But at the same time, he did say he was in a field. I don't really know what that means.
Well,
necessarily.
I mean, there were fields for like 30 miles.
Yeah.
So he could have been picked up, maybe somehow got out and ran.
And that could have been the urgency. Maybe he saw some kind of drug deal or just something crazy happening out there. Maybe a trucker, something happened with a trucker. Like maybe either someone needed to get rid of him or someone wanted to pick him up, even to help him, or even...
It's hard.
Yeah, it's so crazy because yes, he could have just walked into the woods. He could have hit his head. He could have been on drugs. He could have overdosed or died in the woods somewhere.
Yeah. I think my theory that I lean most towards would be that he decided to go for a walk, whether it was to clear his head, get gas, and then maybe he ran into something that was going on that maybe he shouldn't have seen. They say other people was with him. He said we ran, or whatever he said in the recording, talking about other people around him or other people in the situation. Maybe he stumbled upon something that he shouldn't have seen, shouldn't have been a part of, and he ran into the woods to hide, to get away, and that's when he called the police. That's kind of one of my theories.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely plausible when you put it up against the 911 call. He says we a lot. He says, at one point he says something like we're hiding, or something like that.
They ran us
they
ran
pushed us off the road or whatever. Yeah, and these guys, he says, I think there had to have been someone else there. Another thing that I just kind of thought of was it could have been that he had even been walking towards the gas station and maybe got hit by a car. And,
like maybe someone...
so maybe he was disoriented, he was stumbling, he tried to call for help, but maybe someone didn't, maybe they were drunk driving, maybe they, shouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
And maybe took him with them because they didn't want that evidence. Maybe he even was so hurt that they thought that he wouldn't have made it, or...
It's hard, too, because in the recording of the 911 call, if you guys heard it, whenever she says, do you need an ambulance, it sounds like someone says yes, with someone else is saying yes, and then he says, no, we need the cops.
Yeah, and a lot of people think that that's a separate person.
Yeah.
So if there was someone else there, what were they doing? And
where is that person?
Yeah. Where are their vehicles? How did they get there? I think there's so much more to this case than we know right now.
Yeah. It would definitely take, I think, some more evidence to put more things together, make more sense of it.
It was such an isolated area, and there just wasn't a lot going on there. So it's not like someone would have necessarily seen what happened if there was some kind of shady things going down.
This case is definitely a weird one.
It is super weird.
We wanted to kind of wrap up by giving you some descriptions of Brandon Lawson in case you see anything, hear anything, you can kind of know a little bit about him. We're also going to have this on our website, so if you want to check it out at www.theabysspod.com, and we'll have this up there for you to go and read it. He went missing from Bronte, Texas. He was a white male, 26 years old, 230 pounds, 5'9". He had some tattoos on his arms. He had brown hair, blue eyes, a stocky build. When he went missing, he was wearing a yellow shirt with camo shorts and a white 2013 Air Max brand of shoes. So if you see any of his clothing, if you see his phone somewhere and you can connect it back to him or anything, that might be able to help.
Definitely call Crime Stoppers and put that tip in. I think you can even be anonymous. And we'll have all of that information on our website.
And a big shout to people over in that area of Texas. Like, really, make sure to keep your eyes peeled.
Because you never know. It can be one person. Something that doesn't even seem important to you, but could seriously crack a case wide open.
Thank you guys so much for listening today. If you liked us, go ahead and subscribe and maybe give us a rating. Be sure to go follow us at The Abyss Pod on Instagram. And you can go like us on Facebook for The Abyss. We hope to catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
So Brandon
7 weeks later, Crime Stalkers. Yeah. Supposedly, Kyle and Deputy.
My name is Deputy.
They did their own research and they still couldn't come up with any. They don't do research.
They just take tips.
Okay. I have my cheek on it.
I have my cheek on it.
Like, ooh, I haven't heard that word. Get it, girl. Okay, restart. Use that again. I like it. Okay, you know why it's not picking me up? Because my shit is not alive.
I just realized that as soon as you did. I was like, wait a second. So while Kyle and the deputy and all
the people of the world.
everyone, you never know.